These shocking stories will make you question every single I love you you've ever heard. Story 1. I found out about the affair by accident, but who it was changed everything.
I didn't find out about the affair through a dramatic text message, lipstick on a collar, or a suspicious work trip. I found out because my phone was dead and my wife's laptop auto-connected to the Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen while I was aggressively buttering toast. Spotify didn't start playing music. It started playing a voice memo. Her voice, laughing, then another voice, a man's voice, way too relaxed. The kind of relaxed you get when you're naked and confident. I froze, toast still in my hand as she said, I can't believe we're actually doing this. I remember thinking, wow, Spotify really changed their algorithm. At first, my brain tried to save me. Maybe it was a podcast, maybe an audiobook, maybe she joined an improv group and this was method acting. Then he said her nickname, the one only I used. My stomach dropped so fast, I swear it tried to exit through my feet. I stood there listening to two people plan their next meeting with the efficiency of a military operation. Dates, times, excuses. I finally slammed the laptop shut, like that would erase what I'd heard. Spoiler, it did not. I sat down and laughed. Full-on laughed, because if I didn't laugh, I was going to scream into the butter. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, narrating my own life like a bad Reddit post. OP discovers wife is cheating, still has to attend a Zoom meeting. I replayed the voice in my head, trying to identify it. It sounded familiar, which made it worse. I ran through coworkers, friends, neighbors, the guy who always over-smiles at the gym. That night, she kissed me hello, asked about my day, and I almost asked her how her secret lover was doing. But instead, I said fine, like a coward with a mortgage. I decided I needed proof, and I needed to know who he was. That was my first mistake. I went full detective, but like a budget version who learned everything from Reddit comments. I checked messages, emails, cloud backups, even her notes app like a lunatic. That's where I found it. A grocery list titled Saturday, milk, eggs, wine, and his name, my brother's name. I stared at it so long my phone dimmed. Then I laughed again, louder this time because apparently my coping mechanism is stand-up comedy at my own funeral. Surely it was a coincidence. Maybe she was buying wine for him. Maybe he asked her to pick something up. Maybe I was losing my mind and needed to stop reading Reddit stories at 3 a.m. I confronted my brother first, because I thought if I confronted her and I was wrong, I'd blow up my marriage. If I confronted him and I was wrong, I'd just blow up my family. Minor difference. We met for coffee. I asked him casually if he'd been seeing anyone lately. He choked on his latte, like actually choked. Coffee everywhere, people staring. He looked at me and said my name the way you say someone's name when you're about to confess to a crime. That's when I knew. He didn't even deny it. He just said it wasn't supposed to happen, as if affairs have a planning committee. I don't remember leaving the cafe. I remember sitting in my car, shaking, alternating between wanting to punch something and wanting to nap forever. My phone buzzed. A message from my wife. Running late, don't wait up. I laughed again. Of course she was. I went home, poured a drink, then another, and rehearsed a speech I'd never get to finish. I thought the worst part was knowing. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing how many holidays, jokes, and memories now felt like elaborate pranks I was the only one not in on. When she finally came home, I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I asked her how my brother was doing. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She sat down, she admitted everything. How long, how often, how they justified it. She said it didn't mean anything. I laughed for the fourth time and told her that was impressive considering it blew up my entire life.
She begged, she cried, she said she'd end it. I told her she already did, with both of us, in one go. Efficiency clearly runs in the family.
The fallout was nuclear. My parents chose neutrality, which is a fun way of saying they invited us both to Thanksgiving and hoped we'd be adults. My brother sent me a letter, an actual letter, like it was 1950 and betrayal required stationery. I didn't respond. I moved out, started therapy, discovered that rage cleaning is very real. Months later, my wife and brother tried to be together publicly. It lasted 6 weeks. Turns out, trust issues don't disappear when you steal someone else's spouse. Shocking, I know. Now, a year later, I'm better. Not perfect, but better. I still laugh at inappropriate times. I still tell this story like it's dark comedy because otherwise it's just dark. People ask how I found out. I say, by accident. They ask who it was. I say, family. That usually ends the conversation. If there's a lesson here, it's this. Sometimes the universe doesn't whisper the truth. Sometimes it blasts it through a Bluetooth speaker while you're making toast just to make sure you're paying attention.
Story 2. My husband asked for a divorce and left a USB drive on the table. I wish I'd never opened it. My husband asked for a divorce on a Tuesday, which already felt suspicious because Tuesdays were our designated leftover pasta and emotional avoidance nights. He stood in the kitchen, calm in a way that felt rehearsed, like he'd practiced in the mirror while brushing his teeth. He said he'd grown, that we'd grown apart, and that he needed space to become who he really was. Then he grabbed his jacket, kissed my forehead like I was a distant aunt, and walked out. On the table, next to my cold coffee, he left a USB drive, black, unlabeled, like a villain's monologue condensed into plastic. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for it to blink or explode. It didn't. I told myself I wouldn't open it. I opened it immediately.
I wish I could say I was brave or rational, but mostly I was nosy and extremely caffeinated. The drive contained one folder titled, If You're Seeing This. Inside were videos, spreadsheets, voice memos, and something called Phase 4, Do Not Skip. My first thought was affair. My second was cult. My third was that I had married a man who alphabetized his secrets. I clicked the first video. It was my husband, sitting in our garage, whispering like the lawnmower might be wired. He said, "If you're watching this, it means I chickened out." He laughed nervously, then froze as if he'd heard something. The video cut. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Did you open it yet? That's when I realized this wasn't about a divorce, it was about damage control. I didn't reply to the message because every true crime podcast had trained me for this exact moment. Instead, I opened a spreadsheet labeled assets. It wasn't money, it was people. Names, addresses, notes like trusts easily, hates confrontation, and my personal favorite, will absolutely open a USB drive. Next to my name was a smiley face. I laughed because if I didn't, I'd scream. Another video autoplayed. This time, he looked frantic, eyes darting. He explained he'd been recruited into a community project that turned out to be an underground reality game for bored tech millionaires. Points for manipulation, bonuses for long cons. Our marriage apparently had been a season arc. I paused the video to dry heave into a cereal bowl. The unknown number texted again. "You're ahead of schedule." I finally replied, "Who is this?" The answer came instantly, HR. Before I could process that sentence, my doorbell rang. On my porch stood a woman holding a clipboard and wearing a hoodie with my husband's face printed on it like merch. She congratulated me for making it to Phase 4. I asked if this was a prank. She said no, but statistically, most participants said that first. She explained the divorce was real, but also a test. The USB was bait, and now that I'd opened it, I had options. I could walk away with a settlement and a lifelong NDA,
Or I could finish the game and flip the narrative. I asked what flipping the narrative meant. She smiled and said, "You get to ruin him." I agreed before she finished the sentence because spite is a renewable energy source. Over the next week, I learned everything: the game, the sponsors, the cameras I'd never noticed because they were hidden inside fake smoke detectors shaped like tiny owls. Turns out my husband wasn't the mastermind, he was middle management with commitment issues. Phase 4 was public exposure, and I was the twist contestant. They wired me with legal teams instead of microphones. When the finale streamed, he thought he was revealing my breakdown. Instead, I revealed his contracts, his bonuses for emotional manipulation, and the fact he once cried because a barista spelled his name wrong. The chat exploded. Sponsors fled. His hoodie merch sold out for all the wrong reasons. Afterward, I took the settlement anyway. I kept the house, the dog, and the USB drive, which now only contains one file: a video of me holding a coffee saying, "If you're seeing this, mind your business." Sometimes he emails me asking if I hate him. I don't reply. I just smile, because the best part of the game is knowing I won by doing exactly what I always did: paying attention when something felt off and clicking anyway. When she finally came home, I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I asked her how my brother was doing. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. She sat down, she admitted everything: how long, how often, how they justified it. She said it didn't mean anything. I laughed for the fourth time and told her that was impressive considering it blew up my entire life. She begged, she cried, she said she'd end it. I told her she already did, with both of us, in one go. Efficiency clearly runs in the family. Story 3. I forgave the cheating. A year later, I realized it destroyed me. I forgave the cheating because I thought forgiveness was a personality trait, like being tall or lactose intolerant. A year ago, I found the texts by accident while trying to Google, "How long can pasta sit out before it becomes a crime?" Her phone buzzed, her screen lit up, and there it was, a novel-length exchange with a guy named Mark from work. Subtle. When I confronted her, she cried with the precision of an award-winning actress, apologized with bullet points, and promised it was just a mistake. I nodded like a wise monk while my soul quietly packed a suitcase. Reddit would have told me to run. I told myself love was about growth. Growth apparently meant swallowing shards of glass and calling it character development. For the next few months, I became the chill, forgiving boyfriend. I made jokes about it. I said things like, "At least now we're honest," which is the emotional equivalent of putting a band-aid on a sinking ship. She thanked me constantly, which somehow made it worse. Every "thank you for giving me another chance" felt like a tiny receipt proving I'd purchased my own misery. Friends said I was strong. My mom said nothing, which was louder. I told myself the anxiety would fade. Instead, it started lifting weights and training for a marathon. Then, exactly 1 year later, something happened that made me realize forgiveness hadn't healed me. It had quietly hollowed me out. The realization hit on a random Tuesday while I was buying oat milk. I stood in the aisle paralyzed because they were out of my brand, and my brain decided this was a 5-alarm emergency. That's when it clicked. I was exhausted, not tired, emptied. For a year, I'd been hypervigilant, applauding myself for trust while secretly monitoring tone changes, notification sounds, and the way she angled her phone like it was shielding state secrets. I laughed it off, made jokes about becoming a detective, but my body kept the score. I flinched at buzzing phones. I slept like a raccoon on espresso. Forgiveness didn't make me noble, it made me numb. The irony? She was thriving. New hobbies, better sleep, glowing skin. Meanwhile, I was Googling, "Can stress turn you into a completely different person?" at 3 a.m. The cliffhanger came when she announced she was going on a work trip. Totally normal, totally fine. I smiled, wished her luck,
and felt nothing. No fear, no anger, just a dead calm that scared me more than jealousy ever had. When she left, I sat on the couch and realized I didn't miss her. I missed the version of me who trusted without effort. That night, I finally admitted the truth. I didn't forgive her because I healed. I forgave her because I was afraid to lose her. And in doing that, I lost myself.
When she came back, I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I made coffee. That was the moment I knew it was over. I told her I'd forgiven the cheating, but I couldn't forgive what forgiveness had done to me. She looked confused, like I'd just blamed gravity for a bad haircut. I explained how I'd become smaller, quieter, funnier in a defensive way, how I was always fine, which is adult code for actively dissolving. She apologized again, reflexively, like muscle memory. It didn't help. The damage wasn't dramatic. It was slow, subtle, and complete.
Leaving felt less like heartbreak and more like waking up after a long fever. I didn't feel victorious. I felt light. The humor came back first. Dark, sharp, mine. I started sleeping. I stopped checking phones that weren't mine. A year later, I can say this without bitterness. Forgiving cheating didn't make me strong. It taught me my limits. Some things don't explode your life. They quietly rewrite it until you don't recognize the main character anymore. If you're forgiving someone and losing yourself in the process, that's not love. That's erosion. And no amount of forgiveness can save you if you keep standing in the tide. Story 4. She said she was visiting her mom. 2 days later, a stranger called me.
I remember it was a Thursday when Emily told me she was visiting her mom for the weekend. She kissed me goodbye, tossed me a smile like she had a secret mission, and vanished into the gray drizzle outside. Everything seemed normal, except that tiny nagging part of my brain whispered, "Don't trust the weather or her excuses." I shrugged it off, telling myself she probably just wanted some time with her mom. By Friday night, I was binge watching documentaries about serial killers because apparently that's how single guys cope when their girlfriend is with her mom. My phone buzzed, her name lighting up the screen, but it was just a meme from her about cats wearing sunglasses. I laughed, thinking, okay, normal, weirdly normal. Saturday came, and I hadn't heard from her all morning. Not a text, not a meme, not a cryptic emoji. By 2 o'clock, I was genuinely worried. I called her mom's number, the one Emily had given me, and it went straight to voicemail. That's odd, I muttered. By 4, I was pacing my living room in pajamas, talking to my dog like he could tell me the truth about human deceit. I even tried calling Emily's work, thinking maybe she got stuck there. No luck, just a voicemail politely stating she wasn't available. Then, at 5:30, my phone rang, and the caller ID wasn't her. It said unknown. My heart sank, but I answered anyway.
Hello? I said, trying to sound calm. The voice on the other end was low, almost amused, and it sent a chill down my spine. Is this Jason? It asked. Yes, who is this? I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Emily isn't with her mom, the stranger said, pausing just long enough for me to think I misheard. She asked me to call you. My brain short-circuited. What the hell does that even mean? I asked him why. He chuckled, a weird hiccup-like sound, and said, she's in trouble, and if you want to see her again, you need to do exactly as I say. My living room spun. My dog barked like he was auditioning for a horror movie soundtrack. I didn't even have time to panic properly. The stranger started giving instructions. Meet him at a gas station on the edge of town, alone, in 30 minutes, wearing the red jacket I'd bought at that thrift store he somehow knew about. I felt like I was trapped in a badly written action movie. I glanced at the clock. 10 minutes to get there. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and, for reasons I cannot explain rationally, a bag of Doritos. Maybe snacks would make me less nervous? Driving there felt like piloting a spaceship through asteroid fields, every red light a ticking bomb.
I kept imagining Emily tied up in some abandoned warehouse, or worse, laughing at me while she sipped margaritas with a stranger.
When I got there, the lot was empty except for a single black sedan. The stranger stepped out. He looked nothing like a criminal mastermind. He had the posture of a guy who just discovered the last donut was gone. He waved, and I froze. "Jason, good, you came alone," he said. Then he pointed at the passenger seat. There, handcuffed and blindfolded, was Emily. My heart stopped. I ran forward, almost tripping over a cracked curb, and she squealed, "Don't worry, it's a prank." The stranger, whose name I learned was Todd, explained that Emily had signed up for one of those extreme social experiments online. They had been filming reactions for a viral video series called Extreme Relationship Tests. I laughed nervously, relief washing over me. But the humor evaporated when Todd said, "There's one rule. Don't mess this up, or we might have to improvise the next test. It's intense." My stomach turned. Emily, trying to untangle herself from the cuffs, was giggling so hard she nearly fell over. I stared at them both, confused and terrified. This was supposed to be a normal weekend. Instead, I was in a car park at dusk negotiating a hostage prank. "Seriously?" I asked, my voice cracking between laughter and panic. "Seriously," Emily said, kissing me on the cheek while still handcuffed. Then Todd handed me an envelope and whispered, "Open it in private. Step carefully." I tucked it into my jacket and walked away, shaking. Inside was a photo of Emily holding a sign that read, "Do you trust me?" plus coordinates for the next level. I blinked. What the hell kind of social experiment required a hostage scenario and a stranger calling your boyfriend? My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. My hands shook. I answered, "Jason, we need to talk about the next challenge." The next challenge was insane. Todd explained we had to complete a scavenger hunt across the city before midnight. Each stop had a clue, each clue had a dare, and each dare got progressively more ridiculous. Emily was hopping with excitement, bouncing like a caffeinated squirrel, while I was trying not to hyperventilate in my thrift store red jacket. First stop, the grocery store, where I had to convince a cashier to give me exactly 17 grapes without paying. Emily filmed the whole thing, laughing so hard she snorted into her hoodie. People were staring. I was sweating like a man in a sauna being judged by strangers. The second stop was worse. We had to sneak into a backyard to rescue a rubber chicken from a kiddie pool guarded by a lawn gnome army. Emily climbed over fences like a tiny ninja, and I followed, tripping spectacularly and landing face first in mud. Todd's voice crackled over a walkie-talkie. Impressive-ish, but can you handle level 3? My dignity was gone, my shoes were ruined, but somehow my adrenaline made me feel alive. Level 3, a karaoke bar. I had to sing a love song to a mannequin dressed as Emily. And I did it, and it was awful, and everyone clapped. Finally, at midnight, we reached the final location, a rooftop overlooking the city. Todd congratulated me, Emily hugged me, and I realized I had survived the most bizarre weekend of my life. Then Todd leaned in, smiling, and whispered, "Next time, the challenge might be scarier." Emily laughed, kissing me on the lips and whispering, "You passed. Barely." I slumped on the rooftop, staring at the skyline, Doritos now completely crushed in my pocket. My heart was racing, my stomach was doing backflips, and I knew one thing for certain. I would never, ever trust a casual visit to my mom again. But also, it was kind of the most fun I'd ever had. And somewhere deep down, I knew I would answer that stranger's call again, if only to survive another absurd, horrifying, laugh out loud adventure with Emily.